Charles, I got the phone call you sent me on the TV remote. I don't even know how you did that. Last I checked, TV remotes did not have a phone feature. But what are you calling me about?
Oh, yeah, Mommy.
Freeze ray! Oh, that's just a banana. Go to your room. No, I'll go to my room. Or my office, where I'm gonna make the review. Ah! Hello there, boys and girls, and welcome to my eccentric academy. My name is Cademan David, or as gas mask zombies might call me, Mr. Cow. Probably not. They would probably call me Mummy.
Are you my Mummy?
Now, I'll be your teacher for all things nerdy and science fiction. Today, I want to talk about the Doctor Who episode, The Doctor Dances. Now, this is the second part of one of my favorite two-parters in Doctor Who. I believe this was one of the first Doctor Who episodes I ever saw, which might be why this episode plays such an influential part of the show in my head. Now, before I jump too far into this, I want to tell you, watch the episode before you watch this. If you can. I know Doctor Who is kind of hard to watch in the United States right now, but maybe pick up some DVDs if you're a big fan of Doctor Who like I am. Or if you've seen it, jump right into this. Also, I would recommend you watch my previous video on the episode The Empty Child.
Are you my Mummy?
But with that being said, let's get right into the Doctor Dances. Now, right off the bat, we get some comedy from Stephen Moffat, who wrote this episode, having the Doctor tell the gas mask zombies to go to their room.
Puppy, go to your room. Go to your room.
This of course works because they think that the Doctor is their mom.
Are you my Mummy?
Side note, for those of us who are Americans, can we normalize saying mum instead of mom in America? I think it sounds a lot better. You British people, you know how to say words funnily. And of course the joke continues when the Doctor says,
I'm really glad that worked. Those would have been terrible last words.
Now, I want to say, I think Stephen Moffat's comedy is the best in these earlier Russell T era episodes that he wrote. His later episodes feel a little bit too parody humor. And parody humor is something that I'm not really a fan of. I thought about making a video at some point sort of discussing this, how Stephen Moffat's era feels a little bit like a parody. So let me know if you want to watch that episode. But until that, I'll leave it at that. But, it's almost like because Stephen Moffat wrote a parody of Doctor Who back in the day, when he became showrunner, he just assumed that that's what people wanted. I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of Stephen Moffat's humor. A lot of it's just too much. But I do really like his humor in this episode, and I really like the moment of the Doctor saying, go to your room. It's Eccleston's Doctor at his finest, I think. Now, I love in this episode the dynamic between Christopher Eccleston's Doctor and Captain Jack Harkness. I like how they're friends, and they have some friendly banter, but there is also this disapproval of Jack from the Doctor. And I think this dynamic is also interesting with number 10 when they interact, but I think there's more time with it here with number 9. So I think, it's a really interesting dynamic with both the Doctors that Captain Jack interacted with, and way better than anything of Captain Jack in the Jodie Whittaker era. No offense to that era, it's not my cup of tea. We get the first mention of the Land Guard, which became quite a plot point in recent Doctor Who.
Sonic Blaster, 51st century. Weapon factories of Villengard.
You been to the factories?
Once.
Well, they're gone now. Destroyed. Main reactor went critical. Vaporized the lot.
Like I said, once.
As well as the banana joke. Eat banana? Bananas are good?
There's a banana grove there now. I like bananas. Bananas are good.
Also, that line, I quote to my family all the time. That is a wonderful line. A wonderful delivery from Christopher Eccleston. The man is brilliant at talking about bananas. And I love the scene when the Doctor and Captain Jack and Rose are in the facility where they were holding the empty child, and they're listening to the tape, and they realize the tape has run out. That is like a really good sort of like scary moment. It's done very well. I like it a lot. We get a similar moment with the typewriter. Typewriters are cool. I got one right there. It looks very similar to the one this episode. That made me kind of happy for some reason. Now, also I wanted to bring up the sonic screwdriver jokes. Those are the sort of parody humor I was talking about from Stephen Moffat. I feel like when this episode gets the most into that sort of humor, where it's like, making fun of a little bit the elements of the show, which I'm not a huge fan of. I'm actually fine with the jokes in this episode. It kind of makes sense with the sonic screwdriver, because to me, like, that's something that the Doctor just made. He just put together one day and was like, this is really cool. A sonic screwdriver. And, he made it to do screwdriver things and then just expanded on it later on. It is kind of weird here that when he says, I have a sonic screwdriver, he doesn't say, but it can also, detect explosives and all these other things that we see the sonic screwdriver, interfacing with computers, the whole 9 yards. It's kind of weird that he doesn't say that. But hey, I'll take it. This episode is amazing. So, a couple parody-ish jokes that, land better than most of Stephen Moffat's humor, I'm fine with. And I like the fact that when Jack just sort of teleports away, he doesn't really tell the Doctor and Rose what happened to him for a while, right? And in my head, I don't feel like it's too much of a stretch of him thinking, should I just get out of here, or should I be like Han Solo at the end of A New Hope and, stay and help my new friends? And then we learn about the reveal of the radio, and I feel like that's nice, sort of building up to the reveal of what the empty child is and what causes it. I also like that there's no teleportation effect. It's, it's just like a snap, and I think that's kind of an interesting way, like from a filming perspective, to do a teleporter instead of putting in a effect like they do in Star Trek. Also, apparently the sonic screwdriver can fix electric fence wire, which is interesting. I don't quite know how that works, but I wanted to bring this up because in Doctor Who, the Doctor has a wire stretcher. That is a pretty funny joke for the 5 construction worker people who watch this video. It's a construction worker joke for you. It's time to talk about the thing I've been teasing since last episode. The nano genes. I call them nanobots. I guess they're technically nanogenes, but they're nanobots. So yeah, I like the reveal. I like what Stephen Moffat did with them. I think it's a clever sort of way to create gas mask zombies, and gas mask zombies are cool as fudge. But with that being said, there's a couple things that just doesn't quite add up to me. Most notably, that they're able to revive the child, but yet they aren't able to understand that a gas mask is something he's wearing instead of part of him. As well as the scar, like, they have enough information to bring him back to life, but not to fix the scar on his side. Another issue I have with it is it reminds me of that awful Peter Capaldi episode. And I love Peter Capaldi. I'm not a Peter Capaldi hater. He's one of my favorite doctors. But there's that awful episode with the Vikings where they just use alien technology and they're like, bam, you're back to life. And now you can't die. Immortality right there. Bam. It's not a Captain Jack scenario where it takes, like, godlike powers to do it. No, this time it's just alien technology modified by the Doctor. And it's like, ew. It just doesn't work. And here, the line the Doctor has when Rose is like, it can bring you back to life.
And they brought him back to life. They can do that.
What's life? Life's easy. A quirk of matter, nature's way of keeping meat fresh. Nothing to an analogy.
I think that, in my head, this works because, the child wasn't dead, right? He was dead in the way that, sometimes people go out and then doctors are able to bring them back, right? But I think he wasn't fully dead because, if that's the case and these nanogenes are just be able to bring anyone back to life, then there can't be any meaningful deaths in the show Doctor Who, right? Like, because the Doctor can just do some timey-wimey stuff, pull around, get some nanogenes, just call up Captain Jack and be like, hey, can I borrow your nanogenes? And now no one can die. And that doesn't make for very good storytelling. So, yeah, those are the two things that, just don't gel. I get the sort of like the gas or the nanogenes not understanding the gas mask and the scar because, like, sometimes you have to kind of make logical jumps for the story to work, and this isn't the biggest jump in logic I've had to make to appreciate Doctor Who. But the bringing people back to life, that just doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for what it says about the world of the show. It doesn't work in the way that it reminds me of a greater offender of the issues with it. I'm talking about the character, I think they called her Me. I didn't like her character, by the way. But a big part of that is, like, how the Doctor just, like, is able to create immortality. So yeah, that's what doesn't work for me about the nanogenes. But the episode's mostly really good, so I can overlook those things. And I can, I can rewrite a couple of lines in my head to make me appreciate the nanogenes more. And I absolutely love when the Doctor removes the gas mask from the child that was previously the empty child.
Give me a day like this. Give me this one.
love it.
And, he just picks him up and holds him up and hugs him in, like, excitement. And, I think this is a super important element of the Doctor, is, like, just that sort of, like, like he cares about the little guy, right? And he gets excited about this random child being safe, and like this kind of a message is so much better than in later Doctor Who episodes where the message is that you're a terrible person if you don't trust the COVID vaccine.
They are using this to control us and monitor us and microwave our brains. I am anti-Z-Dex.
And it's kind of sad that there's an amount of this Doctor that I feel has kind of been lost to time, and I don't know that we'll get him back for a while, because the ideologies of the people who are making the show, I think, has changed. And I think the current ideology cannot exist within this type of a Doctor. But I don't know. I'm talking off the cuff here. And there's some episodes of later Doctor Who that I do like, and even this sort of element does appear in the very same, 60th anniversary specials, with the Doctor, sort of like holding Donna, promising that she'll get home to see her family. And, that was one of my favorite moments there.
Oh my God, where are we? Rose is waiting.
I will get you home.
But, I just didn't see a lot of that sincerity and emotional depth from Ncuti Gatwa. I apologize, good sir, if I said your name wrong. I pronounced it to the best of my ability. And also, I do want to say, I made the reference to Jack being like Han Solo in A New Hope, and I think there's clearly some inspiration there, especially in the way he leaves, and then he comes back, and he's like, I got the bomb. But, it feels like an homage to me, right? I feel like Doctor Who and Star Wars share a lot of DNA in the way that, like, they're sort of, weird science fiction, right? Like, they come from an era when science fiction was really weird, and they sort of legitimized the genre. Star Wars more so. But Doctor Who, I feel, it shares a lot of DNA, so I like the idea of Captain Jack sort of being an homage to Han Solo, but still a very different character. I like Captain Jack. I think he's rad as fudge. Now, this episode I have heard people criticize it for being one of those episodes where the Doctor just shows up and does some things, and then it all is saved. But I think this episode, well, there is clear evidence of that, and that could be critiqued in the way of, like, it doesn't make good television. I don't mind this episode just because there's so many layers that have to be resolved, and they are, like, resolved one after the other. But they're resolved in different ways. You have the reveal of Nancy as the mother. You have Captain Jack with the bomb, and then you have the Doctor using the nanoprobes to heal everyone, and it works. For me it works. Maybe it doesn't work for you, but for me it works. And then and the Doctor going back and saving Captain Jack. Something else I want to touch on there. It's kind of funny if you have the mindset that, like, the Doctor was just gonna let Jack die, but then Rose made him go and save him. I personally choose to believe that the Doctor was gonna save him from the beginning, but, you know, the episode leaves it open for you to make the assumption that the Doctor was just gonna let Jack die, even though he could easily save him. So I think that's kind of funny. Also, side note, last point here, how have I never noticed that Dr. Constantine is Gaius from Merlin? Like, this time watching, it's so obvious, and I never picked up on that before. But I like the character. He's a cool guy. With that being said, it sounds like we're out of time for today. So if you want to watch more of my classes, I'll have my Doctor Who playlist linked up there, and I'll just have all of my reviews linked right there. And